Hey guys, you've heard of the Young Turks podcast because you're listening to it right now. But make sure that you subscribe and give it a 5-star rating if you like it. Thank you for listening.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Young Turks. I'm Anna Kasparian, and I'm about to do a segment of this show by myself because Cenk Uygur is late. But he will be back later, and we will do the first 2 hours of the show together. We also have special debate night coverage tonight. But I do have a quick note for our members because there is some special programming that'll take place on Friday night of this week. So California's 25th district is holding a special election. Cenk Uygur is one of the candidates in that election, and they are going to hold what's being referred to as a candidate forum at Cal State University Northridge. Again, this Friday, February 21st at 9 p.m. Eastern time, 6 p.m. Pacific. It'll be hosted at CSUN. But if you're a TYT member, the good news is that we will stream this for you, but you have to be a TYT member to watch. If you're not one, you can go to tyt.com/join to sign up. Not only will you get exclusive content, including this candidate forum, but you get all sorts of perks and you get to help this show succeed and remain sustainable. Now, who are the candidates running in California's 25th district? Well, this candidate forum will include Robert Cooper, Getro Elise, Mike Garcia, Courtney Lackey, David Lozano, Daniel Mercury, David Rudnick, Christy Smith, Cenk Uygur, and Anibal Valdez Ortega. So again, tune in tomorrow at 9 p.m. Eastern time, 6 p.m. Pacific on Friday and check it out. Again, we'll be live streaming it specifically for our members. All right, with that said, let's move on to an op-ed in the Washington Post that got a lot of attention today. So, a new opinion piece in the Washington Post argues that average Americans, average voters should probably be kept out of the primary election process, and we should make room for the elites to decide who the best candidates are to represent us in our given parties. Now, this was an op-ed written by Julia Azari, again, in the Washington Post. She's a political science professor. And I think it's important to pay close attention to the way she frames things. Now, keep in mind that she doesn't get to decide what the title of this op-ed is. That's what the editorial staff at the Washington Post does for her, and I think it's intentionally provocative. But if you read her piece, it doesn't make things any better. So the title is, "It's time to give the elites a bigger say in choosing the president." And well, that was the original title, and now it's been changed to, "It's time to switch to preference primaries." And preference primaries is what she is pushing for in this opinion piece. We'll get to the details on what that is in just a second. But first, let's set this up. Let's go to the framing that she provides prior to her proposal here. She says the nomination season is off to a rocky start. Independent Bernie Sanders seems to be leading in popular votes, while upstart Pete Buttigieg is ahead in the delegate count. So she sees that as rocky. I wonder why she thinks that's a rocky start. Could it be because she maybe doesn't like the front runner? I don't know. Let's read more. Now, she compares what's happening in the primary process this time around to previous primary processes, and she finds quite a few flaws. For instance, she writes, "Some critiques point to nominees such as Donald Trump lacking in conventional qualifications and appreciation for democratic norms as proof that nominations shouldn't be too democratic. But the same system, more or less, produced candidates such as Barack Obama and Mitt Romney." So understand what she's saying there. Again, this is her framing, this is her setup before she gives us the proposal, right? She's saying, look, man, these primary voters, sometimes they do not deliver. You get these anti-establishment types, like rocky starts with Bernie Sanders in the lead. And then you have Donald Trump, who I grant you is problematic, but he won the Republican primary fair and square, and we're supposed to live in a democracy. And then she gives these examples of Barack Obama and Mitt Romney as these establishment candidates who are okay. So sometimes this primary process works, but every once in a while you'll get a crazy candidate. She also talks about how the primary process led to McGovern, who was the Democratic nominee, and he famously lost, right? But I think that it's important. The primary process, in my opinion, is the most important part of the presidential election because that is where the voters have the most say. And she's proposing to move away from that and do something known as, a better approach, which she refers to as a better approach. So what is it? She says a better primary system would empower elites. Let me read that again. A better primary system would empower elites to bargain and make decisions instructed by voters. She further elaborates, a better approach is to think about how voters and elites could best play their different roles to make their political parties more representative while ultimately narrowing the nomination choice down to one person. And the best way to do that would be through preference primaries. Okay, great. So what are preference primaries? It sounds a lot like the Electoral College, right? Where you have delegates representing you, and rather than caucusing or casting votes in the primary elections, you would essentially participate in polls and let your delegates know who, or whatever, your representatives know who you support, and hopefully they will go off and vote for the candidate on your behalf. Now here's what she says. Preference primaries could allow voters to rank their choices among candidates, as well as to register opinions about their issue priorities, like an exit poll, but more formal and with all the voters. The results would be public, but not binding. I think that's an incredibly important part of this. A way to inform elites about voter preferences. So let's stop for a second, because how unbelievably tone deaf is this opinion piece? So the original title was terrible, right? But I think the original title demonstrated exactly what the writer wants here, which is to take some of the voting power away from average Americans, part of the electorate, right? And concentrate that power to what she refers to as the elites. How does she think that this is gonna fly or that people are gonna be okay with it? So let me give you more. The process could accompany a primary of the sort we're used to, in which voters' first choices instruct the delegates and preferences come into play only if there's no clear winner. The point is to build a way for party elites, she just keeps using this word elites, party elites to understand what their base is thinking and to allow them to bargain so that these different preferences and priorities can be balanced. So clearly, I find it fascinating that this is the type of op-ed that you'll see in a publication like the Washington Post when the front runner, the person who's leading nationally in double digits, Bernie Sanders, is obviously this unconventional candidate that makes the establishment incredibly uncomfortable. And so the response from these political scientists, these professors is, oh no, what can we do to mitigate this? What can we do to prevent this from happening in the future? Because the average voter can't be trusted. We need the elites to look out for our best interests. We need the people we can trust to look out for our best interests. We can't just allow the riffraff to make decisions about who deserves to win the nomination for either party. That's the way this is coming across, especially with the incessant use of the word elites. She also writes, the reforms that created the modern primary system in the 1970s opened the door to too much uncertainty and to divisive nominees such as George McGovern in 1972. This spurred efforts by party leaders to take control informally through a system of endorsements and donations, narrowing the field down to acceptable candidates before the first caucuses and primaries took place. Look, understandably, Julia Azari's piece received a lot of backlash, a lot of criticism, and she responded to some of that criticism on Twitter, writing, quote, well, I wrote a piece suggesting that we could have a non-binding primary in which voters express their choices, issue attitudes, so locally selected delegates could bargain instead of screaming about electability for 13 months, and now I've been accused of the Holocaust. Now, of course, no one's accused her of the Holocaust, but people were not happy with how she's differentiating the elites from the rest of America, right? She's making the case that average voters, can maybe share how they feel about candidates, but the people who ultimately make the decisions about who will end up leading us will be the delegates, will be the people in positions of power, will be the so-called elites. And her argument is, well, look, we're the ones who get to choose who these delegates are. We're the ones who get to participate in some of these local elections. So if you don't like these delegates and they're not really representing your best interest, you could always vote them out. But as we know, because Congress is littered with them, there are all sorts of representatives who do not represent our best interests, and they remain in positions of power through political influence, through deals, through money in politics. And so this is an effort to make our democracy a little less democratic, and I have a huge problem with that, which is probably why they changed the title to the opinion piece. All right, we're gonna take our first break. When we come back, we have more for you, including AOC's appearance on The View. Whoopi Goldberg had some harsh words for her, so did Meghan McCain. So we'll show you those videos and react when
we need to talk about a relatively new show called the Republic, or UNFTR. As a Young Turks fan, you already know that the government, the media, and corporations are constantly peddling lies that serve the interests of the rich and powerful. But now there's a podcast dedicated to unraveling those lies, debunking the conventional wisdom. In each episode of the Republic, or UNFTR, the host delves into a different historical episode or topic that's generally misunderstood or purposely obfuscated by the so-called powers that be, featuring in-depth research, razor-sharp commentary, and just the right amount of vulgarity. The UNFTR podcast takes a sledgehammer to what you thought you knew about some of the nation's most sacred historical cows. But don't just take my word for it. The New York Times described UNFTR as consistently compelling and educational, aiming to challenge conventional wisdom and upend the historical narratives that were taught in school. For as the great philosopher Yoda once put it, "You must unlearn what you have learned." And that's true whether you're in Jedi training or you're uprooting and exposing all the propaganda and disinformation you've been fed over the course of your lifetime. So search for UNFTR in your podcast app today and get ready to get informed, angered, and entertained all at the same time.
we return.
All right, welcome to the Young Turks, or welcome back, I should say. Welcome to me. As I could tell from the comments, apparently Anna was a little salty about my lateness.
I actually wasn't. I just wanted to put you on blast.
Opinionated writes in, ouch, a jank burn right at the start, salty Anna's back. So apparently, right, there we go. So thank you for at least letting me know. Gabby Marita says, jank slate, what is this? 2014?
I know, for real. I know.
I knew Edwin was gonna love that comment. I knew it. Okay. All right, now on to the story that Anna did, which I'm so mad I missed. Sorry guys for being late.
Consequences.
I know, right? I bathe in the DNC's tears, wrote in. So the elites would be the middlemen. Our own representatives don't listen to people as it is. Now we're expected to trust the elites to forego their best interests for ours?
Nope.
I mean, they write it with a straight face. Like, oh yeah, well, of course. I mean, this democracy has become not helpful to our interests.
No, it's amazing though. I mean, it's so incredibly transparent.
Yeah.
Like she starts this article or this opinion piece by saying, oh, the primaries are off to a rocky start. This independent Bernie Sanders guy is in the lead.
Yeah. But like you just admitted that you hate Bernie Sanders, and that's why you'd like to subvert democracy in order to make sure he doesn't win. And then, but they genuinely believe it. I swear to you, every person I've met in the establishment, they genuinely believe it cannot be Bernie Sanders. And if it's a choice between Bernie Sanders and democracy, not that big a deal. Like obviously, or a choice of Bernie Sanders and democracy, or no democracy at all. They really, what they had was they had a nice thing going. For about 40 years, they controlled all of the media and they brainwashed everybody into thinking the powerful should have everything and the rest of us should have nothing. And now that that's been upended, or at least it has begun to be upended, they are in a rage. They're like, how do we get back to us having all of the power? Right? Maybe we end democracy. Okay, well, Trump thinks the same thing, so you guys are in great company. Anyway, last one, YouTube super chat. Dakota Door says, wait, I thought that was an Onion article. Maybe it would belong better in an Onion article. Anyway, guys, tonight we're covering the Nevada debate. Obviously, over the weekend, Nevada, then next week, South Carolina, and then Super Tuesday. And 2020 is everything. If we win, oh my God, we got the White House. Oh my God, progressives are back in charge for the first time in decades.
Boys are back in town.
Although the establishment would say, the Bernie bros are back in town.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah. But if we lose, we're back in the wilderness and hope is gone for 4, 8, or God knows how many years. So 2020 is endgame. Everything.
Okay, so one other programming note, we will be doing special coverage of the Nevada debate tonight, and so you can tune in and watch us live beginning at 11 p.m. Eastern time. J.R. Jackson, John Iadarola, Cenk Uygur, and myself will be on the panel, and the final 30 minutes of the show will be reserved for our members. So if you'd like to support the show, please go to tyt.com/join. Members help to make this show happen, so thank you.
So obviously that's in a couple hours. I also have Ken Klippenstein and Ryan Grimm on the show as guests before that. We got a post game, but I got to say tonight is huge because Bloomberg's going to be on the debate stage for the first time. So are they going to actually talk about his record? There's no way the moderators are going to ask him any tough questions.
Right.
Like that's inconceivable. And like I'll fall out of my chair if they do that. If they ask him about any of his unbelievable quotes, right?
Right.
But will Elizabeth Warren bring it up? Will Amy Klobuchar bring it up? We'll see.
And how many times are they going to bring up Bernie Sanders and his health?
Yeah. So we're gonna get to those lies in a second. It makes my blood boil. It's gonna give me health problems.
All right. Well, let's get to the unending Bernie Bro saga. So,
my campaign, people who work for me. My wife has been subjected to incredibly ugly stuff. And we don't make a big deal about it.
That was Bernie Sanders responding to KCPQ's reporter Brandy Cruz's question about his supporters and whether he's doing anything to rein them in, because of course this whole Bernie bro narrative just will not die. It's the only thing the corporate Democrats can latch onto in an effort to smear Sanders, but it hasn't worked so far. And interestingly enough, there was a series of town halls on CNN last night featuring Democratic candidates. Anderson Cooper brought up the whole Bernie bro narrative during the town hall, and here's how Sanders responded.
I'm a big supporter, but for those who still need to hear it, will you condemn the Bernie bro behavior?
I will condemn absolutely anybody, including my campaign or any other campaign, that makes vicious personal attacks against people. What our people are involved in, we are a campaign which believes in compassion, which believes in justice. So I don't tolerate ugly attacks against anybody. But let me just say this. Talk to the people in my campaign, often the African American women in this campaign. Talk to my wife about the kind of ugly attacks that have come into us. So right now, which is a very serious national problem, we have an internet which is essentially the Wild West. Somebody could say, hey, I'm Anderson Cooper, and Zippo say some ugly things. And right now that cannot be stopped.
Just want to point to the fact that he said Zippo. I really like that.
Wow, there's no malarkey in that.
Yeah, no.
Okay, so, all of this is wrong. It's total BS framing. Bernie's too polite as usual. It's a perfectly good answer. It's an acceptable answer, but it leaves the frame in place. The framing is Bernie's supporters, who are the most progressive people in the country, the ones that look out for the disadvantaged communities the most, are actually the ugliest or the most vile or the most all of these things. It's a lie, it's a lie, it's a lie. Okay, so let me be clear about that. So the mainstream media attacks Bernie Sanders and his supporters 24/7. So this is how this game is played. They'll go, aren't you a sad, pathetic, terrible, ugly, vile person on the internet, right? And you go, no, that's not fair. I knew it. You see that? He called me a liar. They're so rude, they're barbarians. Wait a minute, you just spat in our face. You just attacked us 24/7. You took 1 or 2 internet trolls who, by the way, no one knows whose side they're actually on. Really? Did you do exhaustive analysis, CNN or anyone else, to find out if they're actually establishment supporters or Biden supporters? You didn't do any of that. You don't know who they are. And then you make it seem like all Bernie Sanders supporters are vile, terrible, etc. You do that in an effort to lie and to smear Bernie Sanders and all of the people who are voting for him. And so you never do that to any other campaign.
Right.
And then you turn around and pretend as if Bernie Sanders should be condemning them more. Why aren't you condemning them? Those pieces of crap, condemn them. You see how ugly they are? No, you just did it. You just did it. You smeared all of us.
So I actually think that it was good that this came up again, because it gave Bernie Sanders a very clear avenue, a very public platform to condemn any type of abuse online. Because the argument that we keep hearing over and over again from these disingenuous bad faith actors is, well, I mean, look, sure, I mean, it's not Bernie Sanders, it's not members of his campaign that are doing all this abusive stuff online. Sure, it's random people and random supporters, but why isn't he saying something? Why doesn't he condemn them? All right, well, he condemned them once already. I mean, he's condemned them several times previously, but this is the most recent example, right, during this town hall. And then it came up again, and he condemned it again. Take a look.
Two things. Number one, I'm totally against online bullying and harassment. And I condemn anybody who claims to speak for me. You know, I have a hard time understanding, given my views, which everybody knows, how anybody who thinks they are supporting me would do some ugly and terrible thing. But also, let me just say this, and I don't want to be overly paranoid here, is that, we live in a crazy time. And there are a lot of folks out there who do bots and all this other thing. I saw some of those things. And there are people out there who want to divide the progressive movement.
So he condemns the online bullying again, but I want to be clear about something. Jennifer Rubin yesterday tweeted something about how, it's so terrible. The same narrative that we've been seeing about the so-called Bernie Bros. And she made a reference to like his campaign and how some of his staffers are engaging in it. I just want one example. I want one example of someone in the Bernie Sanders campaign doing or saying anything that could be considered bullying or harassment or abusive. It doesn't exist. What they don't like is that there are now a group of progressive people on Twitter who are pretty well organized.
Yeah.
Way more organized than they were in 2016.
Yep.
And they don't like that we're organized, and they don't like that we respond to their attempts to smear Bernie Sanders with the facts. The facts are the facts. You can't change that. Now, it might feel like you're being bullied and you're being, bombarded with facts that you don't like, but that's called life, and you don't have to be on Twitter. If you can't handle the truth about the candidate that you're attempting to smear, then you're too fragile to be online. Get off.
But it goes way beyond that. First of all, I don't accept any of this framing. Jennifer Rubin smears people more than almost anyone in the mainstream media. For her to lie time after time and call people terrible names, which she does almost in every column, and then turn around and go, oh my God, I've got the vapors. I'm so offended.
Right.
I'm allowed to punch you in the face 1,000 times over because I'm in the establishment. But if you dare say, hey, by the way, while you were punching me in the face, you told a lie. You barbarians, how dare you? And so Jennifer Rubin, by the way, you're a Republican who helped start the Iraq war. I have 0% interest. You know what was really barbaric, Jennifer Rubin? The Iraq war that killed hundreds of thousands of innocent civilians. You did that, and then don't come around saying, oh no, my feelings have been hurt. And I don't know if you know this, those civilians in Iraq don't count. They're plebeians, they're just masses. Our troops who died in Iraq, they don't count. The only people that count are in the club. And I'm in the club, I write for the Washington Post, and you're not allowed to offend me. So you guys are allowed to lie about us for the last 4 decades, including right now, in the middle of the campaign. They're lying about Bernie's health as we speak. We're gonna get to that story next. And then you turn around and you go, no, you're not allowed to tell people that I'm lying about you. And if you do, you're being uncivil. And then I'm gonna lie about you more and pretend that you're all not only ugly, that's a word they use all the time. You people are ugly. You see how I'm civil? But I'm in the club, so I'm allowed to say anything I want to people outside the club. And then the second thing they say is potentially violent. You just made that up. You just made it up. because you want to smear people. What do you mean potentially? Did anyone do violence? No, but I just wanted to just attack all of you and say terrible, terrible things about you with impunity. God damn it, why won't you know your role? Your role is to sit outside the club and get crumbs off our goddamn table. And if you raise your voice, you're not allowed to because we control all the media. Sad day for you, Jennifer Rubin, Washington Post, New York Times, CNN. You no longer control all of the media. If you want to cry about it, go cry in a corner. I don't give a damn.
So this is a way to distract from speaking about policy, debating about policy. Think about that. There's been little to no debate about what Bernie Sanders is bringing to the table policy-wise. All of the focus from corporate Democrats and conservative opinion writers like Jennifer Rubin has been on nonsense, smears about the so-called Bernie bros, or fear-mongering about Bernie Sanders' age, or what he identifies as ideologically, what his party registration is in Vermont, like just nonsense that doesn't actually matter to the American people. And when you have organized progressives online that do like rapid fire response to all this nonsense, well, their feelings get hurt. And I love it, I love it. So go ahead and continue crying about it. Nothing is gonna change, and they can't provide a single example of any type of official either encouraging online bullying or engaging in online bullying. One other thing though, which I think is hilarious, while all of these disingenuous, corporatists and elites argue about how, this is the Bernie bro behavior is just unacceptable. Well, why don't we talk about the way Nina Turner is treated online? Why don't we talk about the way the national press secretary for the Bernie Sanders campaign, Brianna Joy Gray, is treated online? I mean, just look at their mentions. It's vicious, but I don't see these women going around the country crying and whining about it, right? They're strong, they're fighters, and they focus on policy. That's something that they can't do because they know that the establishment policy proposals aren't popular with the American people, so they just deflect and focus on this nonsense.
In fact, why do you think they've turned to personal attacks? Because for 1 year straight, they attacked his policies. Medicare for all, how are you gonna pay for that? How are you gonna pay for that? It's unpopular, they'd show a poll, it's at 70%, they'd just lie. They'd go, no, it's unpopular, you'll never get elected with Medicare for all. Then he won Iowa, then he won New Hampshire. They're like, damn it! We all agreed, the Democrats, the Republicans, and the media, we all agreed to smear Medicare for all, and we spent literally billions of dollars attacking Medicare for all, and it's still at 55% popularity. It's still at 64% popularity with independents and 77% with Democrats. It didn't work. So now let's do ugly attacks against Bernie Sanders and try to make him look like the bad guy while pretending to be innocent. But whatever we do not talk about policy. It didn't work. It turns out they love his policies. And these masses, they're almost in charge. It's almost like we have a democracy, and we've got to get our control back. And last thing about this, have they ever been polite to us? They have said 1,000 horrible things about progressives. So why doesn't that count? Because in their mentality, you're not a person, you don't matter. You're not someone powerful in Washington. So since you don't matter, they can say anything they want about you, and it doesn't offend any of their friends. Everybody's still happy. You're outside in the cold. Who gives a damn about you? But if you dare, when you're not even a person, you dare to criticize anyone inside the club, that spreads like wildfire. Did you hear? Oh my God, Bobby in the club was offended. Bobby was offended, everybody, Bobby was offended. Look at these people out there in the cold. How dare they attack us? Let's attack them again. Let's try to crush them.
It is
and that's
amazing.
what's happening right now.
Yeah, it is amazing to see all these people in positions of privilege and power cry about online bullying that doesn't really exist.
Whereas when they bully people time and time and time again, lie and smear, they go, no, that doesn't count. That doesn't count because we're doing it to nobodies.
Yeah, well, luckily they're consistent because all of these Democrats really rallied in support of AOC as she was viciously attacked over and over again by right wingers. Oh yeah, they didn't.
And Ilhan Omar.
Oh yeah,
Boy,
that's right.
Did they defend Ilhan Omar.
Yeah, by threatening to censure her. Anyway, well, let's move on. There's one other Bernie bro related story that I want to get to. Meghan McCain's involved, so. Yesterday, I gave Meghan McCain a lot of credit for her critique on Michael Bloomberg, but Of course, she turned around and disappointed again today when she went after AOC and basically had her answer for the Bernie Sanders campaign and this whole false narrative of Bernie bros. Let's take a look.
The one thing that connects women on the left and women on the right, I have found at least a lot of guest hosts, a lot of guests that have come on over the 3 years I've been here, is the abuse that we have all been subjected to by Bernie bros. It is by far, of anything I've ever done in my entire life, the most violent, the most misogynistic, the most sexist, the most harmful. My mother has cried over doctored photos Bernie brothers have sent me, and I'm just one story. He has a real problem, and I don't think that he's doing enough to tamper it down. If it were anyone, I'd say this has no representative of me. It's disgusting. It's vitriolic. And every time I see him talk about it, he's like, doesn't represent me, move on. You're an extremely powerful woman. How do you feel that he's attached to this deeply misogynistic, and I would go so far as to say violent sector of people?
So it's important to focus on her wording, her framing there. McCain used a lot of hyperbole. Now, who knows, maybe she'd argue that it's not hyperbole, but I would argue it absolutely is. She referred to Bernie bros as violent.
No,
that's crazy.
It's not arguable. It's not arguable. Oh, really, Megan? Then show me one act of violence. Show me one act of violence. Because you just on national television smeared millions of people.
That's right.
And then you're pretending your feelings are hurt when you just said all these people are violent, that they do violence, that the people that are fighting to stop the endless wars, the people that are fighting for peace are somehow the most violent people. Well, that's a lie. So when I call you a liar, now you're gonna cry again, right, Megan? Oh, did you know my dad is John McCain? Okay, I can't believe I get to call you violent. I get to call you trash. I get to call you all these things. But if you dare say, hey, that's not true, I'm gonna cry again. I don't care how much you cry, Megan. I don't care. You have attacked us 1,000 times, including right there. Right there, we just saw it with our own eyes and filled with nothing but lies. But somebody says something mean about me online. I get to say mean things about you on television, day in, day out. I get to punch you in the face 1,000 times over, but you don't understand, I have power, I'm a person. You are not a person. And how dare you say something mean to me online? My mom cried. Megan, okay, first of all, get over it. And why do I say that? Do I have the authority to say that? I don't know that anyone has ever been attacked online as much as I have. And you might say, oh, that's hyperbole. Yeah, maybe AOC, maybe Trump. I'm keeping it real, right? Maybe Bernie, etc. Obama, obviously the big figures. But we live online. We have tens of thousands of comments every single day. And half of them are, yes, actual threats of violence. Yes, they've actually put out our address. Yes, they've said unbelievable things that would make Meghan McCain's head explode about me. But I know that's the internet. I know that doesn't represent every single person who's a Republican. We're fair about it. We go, okay, there's monsters online, but they don't represent everyone, right? They go, oh, there's one person, I found one person, it's Bernie Sanders, it's his fault, and I'm gonna call everyone who supports Bernie Sanders misogynistic. Oh, please.
I love it.
You're a hack. You're the worst kind of hack. Did I offend you? Did I offend you? Oh my God. I'm so sorry, I should know my role. I'm not on powerful television, I'm not in the club, my dad's name is not McCain. Oh, Megan, I'm so sorry. No deal, no deal. This time we fight back.
Damn, it's the Dead Sea in here, super salty. Geez. Okay, so that was a good response to what Megan had to say. I'm gonna be a little critical of how AOC handled this, and I'll let you watch the video first and then I'll tell you why.
And I think internet culture can often be very toxic, and whether we are cognizant of it or not, it nearly always concentrates on women, people of color, queer people. And we experience the brunt of it. And I think, I think that to a certain extent, we have to always reject hate, reject vitriol, and denounce that kind of behavior. Also, we also know the amount of anonymous activity that happens on the internet, and that simply is difficult. It is difficult to control when you have like a Twitter handle with a bunch of numbers on it with 2 followers that are lobbying vitriol at you. We don't know where that comes from, but I know that it doesn't.
I think he's done enough to try and stop it.
I think he works very hard. I think we send out messaging emails, and you know what? I've been subject to a lot of this stuff from all sorts of pockets from the internet.
He's got to do more.
Horrendous.
He's got to stand up and say it every day if he needs to.
Yeah.
Stop this. We're not accepting it. It's not good for us.
Jake's about to explode, so let me just say one thing. I have a problem with how she kind of accepted the framing there. And I think that's unacceptable. Don't accept her framing. She's a bad faith actor, and it's not genuine critique or criticism. It's bad faith, and it drives me nuts. Go ahead.
So look, it's AOC's in a tough position there. They bring her on and they go, okay, now you represent all the misogynists, go. So now you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you say, no, it's not good, they say, oh, so you are one of the misogynists. What? I'm a woman, what are you talking about, right? So it puts AOC in an impossible situation. But now these are show trials where the McCarthyites bring you out and go, apologize, apologize, apologize. Every day you must apologize. Did you hear what Whoopi Goldberg said? Bernie Sanders is supposed to, in the middle of a presidential campaign, stop his campaign and every single day apologize for Twitter trolls that he has no idea even support him. But that is the standard for progressives. Now, does Hillary Clinton supporters have to apologize for all the terrible things they said about Bernie Sanders supporters and Bernie Sanders? No. She never has to apologize. Hillary Clinton herself is going on a tour attacking Bernie Sanders and saying personal insults like no one likes him.
Right, and
is she forced to apologize? No, because she's in the club. You don't get it, Cenk. Whoopi's in the club, Meghan's in the club, and Hillary's in the club. They're allowed to say anything they want about you. And so, but if we say, hey, can you not equate us with rando trolls? No, you must apologize every single day, right? Now, you say, hey, Cenk, you sound like you're raising your voice. That's very uncivil. Because we in the club, we do it civilly. See, watch, I'll do it like this. You're a misogynist, sexist piece of trash. And so is Bernie Sanders, and all of you supporters are. And you should all apologize for your existence every single day. See, I said it so civilly, right? So if you say it civilly like that and you say it 1,000 times on every television station, that doesn't count, right? So, but when we actually fight back, they're like, no, you're not allowed. They should know their role. It reminds me of the beginning of Gladiator. Why won't the people know that they are defeated? Because we're not defeated. That's right. Why you're going nuts right now. Because Bernie Sanders is winning. So that's why you do this extreme framing, this absurd attack where, last thing guys, have you ever gone on the internet? Meghan McCain? Have you ever seen conservatives on the internet? Who are you kidding? What kind of a joke are you? Conservatives on the internet are the worst people on earth.
I mean, just a few days ago, and I posted this on Twitter, some guy messaged me on Instagram and called me all sorts of names and then said that he and an armed militia are coming for me. Right? And then he had a bunch of gun pictures on his Instagram page. By the way, Instagram refused to do anything about his account. That's not even considered online bullying according to Instagram, right? So look, I get it. The Bernie supporters are the, well, actually guys, right? Like, let's keep it real, they are. Everyone hates being corrected. Everyone hates being called out when they're wrong. Jason Johnson especially doesn't like to be called out when he's wrong because it makes you look foolish. It makes you out to be, a hack in a lot of cases. And the dishonesty and the bad faith nonsense that's going on right now is something that, they want to be able to do without any type of pushback. And the Bernie supporters come out and say, well, actually, here's evidence of this. Here's evidence of that. Here, I'm gonna do a rebuttal and show you why your attempts to smear him are ridiculous and in bad faith. And to them, that feels like an assault. Because again, we're well organized, there's a lot of us now, and people are informed, they're aware, and they're not buying this garbage in corporate media or among corporate elites.
So let's play their game. So this is not my logic, this is their logic. If Bernie Sanders has to apologize every single day for anything anyone online says that might or might not be a progressive, that might or might not back him, okay, well then Meghan McCain has to apologize for everything that a conservative has to say every single day. I get it, maybe 1,000, maybe 10,000, I don't know, I haven't counted, but every single day attacks online. So Meghan McCain, you must apologize for that every day from conservatives.
Why isn't she doing enough?
But she's not doing enough.
She's not doing enough.
She's not doing enough. Your attackers are racist, bigots, Islamophobes. anti-Semitic, sexist. They're the worst. Megyn, why won't you do something?
Do something.
And Megyn, why didn't you apologize yesterday? Why didn't you apologize today? Why aren't you apologizing tomorrow, Megyn? And by the way, I'm not done. Whoopi, you too.
Yeah.
The establishment attacks us all the time. It says the most vile things. And Whoopi Goldberg is establishment 101. So Whoopi, in your infinite wealth and privilege, I need you to apologize every single day for everything wrong that any person who supports the establishment has ever said about us, anything vile and ugly. No, because I'm following your rules. Since you are part of the beloved establishment, and people that are connected to you have attacked us and said terrible things, I need an apology tomorrow, Whoopi Goldberg. If you don't do it, you're responsible. So Whoopi Goldberg and Meghan McCain are now responsible for everyone online. Wait a minute, Jake, that's not fair. Exactly. But when you do it to Bernie Sanders, you think you're being clever. You're not at all clever.
Let's take a break. When we come back, we have more on Whoopi because AOC's appearance apparently made the women of The View lose their minds, and Whoopi Goldberg kind of snapped at her.
Oh, did she? Oh, being upbraided by Whoopi. I care so much. All right, Whoopi, wait till you think AOC? All right, wait till you get a load of me. But they won't. You're barbarians. Keep them online. Keep them online. Okay, wait, they're not even rich. What are they doing here? Oh my God. All right.
That was a good tease. All right, we'll be back.
At TYT, we frequently talk about all the ways that big tech companies are taking control of our online lives, constantly monitoring us and storing and selling our data. But that doesn't mean we have to let them. It's possible to stay anonymous online and hide your data from the prying eyes of big tech. And one of the best ways is with ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN hides your IP address, making your activity more difficult to trace and sell to advertisers. ExpressVPN also encrypts 100% of your network data to protect you from eavesdroppers and cyber criminals. And it's also easy to install. A single mouse click protects all your devices. But listen, guys, this is important. ExpressVPN is rated #1 by CNET and Wired magazine. So take back control of your life online and secure your data with a top VPN solution available, ExpressVPN. And if you go to expressvpn.com/TYT, you can get 3 extra months for free with this exclusive link just for TYT fans. That's expressvpn.com/TYT. Check it out today.
We hope you're enjoying this free clip from the Young Turks. If you want to get the whole show and more exclusive content while supporting independent media, become a member at tyt.com/join today. In the meantime, enjoy this free segment. All right, back at the Young Turks, let's go to members' comments. Punk NATO says, I love all the guest hosts, but Cenk and Anna together are the ultimate TYT. They are the unmitigated tag team fight, the power, progressive fist in the air of truth. It's some sweet music. Thank you, Punk NATO, we appreciate that. TYT.com/join to become a member, and we read your comments first. Naomi Justine.
Did you miss me?
Of course, Anna, of course. Okay, I almost moved the show to Munich just because we missed you so much.
All right, enough with the sarcasm. Let's move on. Jeez.
Naomi Justine writes in, I didn't realize how much my soul needed to hear Cenk address the Bernie bro mess. Thank you, Naomi. If it wasn't for you, I couldn't do it at all. Frayed Ends of Janet T says, Cenk, I watch TYT so often, my 3-year-old daughter started saying, of course, when I ask her an obvious question. I guess you have a new, very small supporter. Well, hey, how you doing? Swedish Social Democrat writes in, hey, Cenk and Anna, much love from a longtime viewer and since a few years ago also a member. Born and raised in Stockholm, Sweden. Me and a lot of Social Democrats here in Sweden root for you and Bernie so much you can't even believe. I try to educate people I meet on the actual politics and healthcare situation of America, and nobody can imagine how bad it is. Having to pay for healthcare is not right, okay, or humane. All luck to you in 2020. Tons of love. Linus, thank you, Linus. Last one is a wonderfully sarcastic one from Eclectic Miss Jelania on Twitter. I'm so glad that Bloomberg made the cut for the debate. It's about time there's a more conservative voice on the stage who will finally stand up to the blatantly progressive bias the moderators have shown in their questions throughout the primary process. Okay, indeed.
Yes.
Okay, so obviously we're covering that live tonight, so don't miss any of it. The minute the debate is over, our analysis begins.
By the way, the dinner in LA sweepstakes that we're doing alongside Aspiration is almost coming to an end. So if you want to win a chance to have dinner in Los Angeles with Cenk, John, and myself, you still have time, but time is running out. Just go to tyt.com/dinner in LA, and that's where you'll get all the details. Register alone. Register to get the spend and save account at Aspiration. Then you register your eligibility. It has all the details. Just go to that link, okay? It's great. tyt.com/dinner in LA. Let's move on. All right, so Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was on The View, and Whoopi Goldberg had some strong words for her. Let's see what she had to say.
You know, I was very happy when you were elected because I thought it was a great step in a good direction. And then you lost me because it felt like you were saying to people like me that I was too old and didn't do enough to make, well, that's what it sounded like. And so that has bothered me because I feel like I love young people. I was once one. But you're on my shoulders.
Absolutely.
And we have carried this fight. People like, Nancy Pelosi, who was the only chick in the room for years. And Madam Feinstein, who was the only chick in the room for years and had to deal with all of that stuff. And to sort of hear it sound like you were dismissing us bothered the hell out of me.
Of course. She's been very upset about it.
And I've been very upset about it for a long time. So do you think maybe they misunderstood what you were saying? Did I misunderstand what you were saying?
Sorry, Cenk, it's my time to rant. No, I just
go for it.
No,
Who's stopping you? You run the show.
I can't handle. You're right, I do run the show. No, I can't handle women who make women look weak, right? And look, they're doing that right now by pretending to be so hurt, by AOC and progressives, more importantly, fighting for a better future. So the generations before us didn't do enough, didn't do much, didn't do anything at all when it came to climate change, right? So I think it's a fair criticism of previous generations to say, hey, you didn't take climate change seriously. And now, hey, it's way more urgent and we need to act now, we need to act fast. I don't know why Whoopi Goldberg gets personally offended when we talk about the need to do more than generations before us, right? That's not to say you're a bad person. And then this self-aggrandizing thing, right? Like, you're on our shoulders. Okay, what did you do, right? You're an actress. I'm not trying to belittle that. You had a very successful, wonderful career in acting. Now you're doing political commentary as someone who's not qualified to do any political analysis whatsoever. I wanted to figure out if she did any real political activism. Maybe there's something that I missed about her past. But she's actually pretty conservative for a Democrat. Wants to repeal estate taxes. In fact, in 2007, she was quoted as saying, "I'd like somebody to get rid of the death tax. That's what I want. I don't want to get taxed just because I died."
Good news for you, you don't, you're dead.
Yeah,
the people who didn't earn it, your kids, grandkids, etc., they're the ones who get taxed for the first time, not the second time. And unlike people who work for a living, they did nothing to get that money. You already got taxed, you only get taxed once. So don't pretend that you're getting taxed a second time, that's just not true. Have I offended you by saying things that are empirically true?
How dare you, Cenk? You stand on her shoulders.
Okay.
It's just weird. Okay, and then she talked about how she's a member of the NRA back in 2012.
Oh, you must be so proud.
Her political activism, she did some stuff when it came to pushing for equality for the LGBTQ community, so that's great. I give her credit for that, right? But I mean, the self-aggrandizing nonsense is just so ridiculous, and to pretend like you're personally offended by a young woman who was elected into Congress because she has a very clear progressive message and a progressive agenda blows me away, blows my mind, I should say. And then one final thing, I don't care what the gender of a representative is, I just don't, right? Nancy Pelosi handed Donald Trump $4.6 billion in border security as children were dying in cages at the border. AOC spoke out against that, and Nancy Pelosi attacked AOC in the New York Times. Nancy Pelosi has assisted Donald Trump legislatively when it comes to tax cuts, when it comes to military funding, when it comes to a number of his legislative objectives, including the USMCA, right? So, all right, just because she's a woman doesn't mean that I'm impressed by her. Same with Dianne Feinstein, the Republican who pretends to be a Democrat. I mean, what did she do to California? So all these sweetheart real estate deals for her husband. All this self-enrichment. I'm not proud of that. I don't look at her and think, oh, she's a woman, so I'm just gonna be proud that there's a woman in the Senate. No.
Well, there's another thing that I'd be shocked if Whoopi Goldberg hadn't given donations, a lot of donations to those women. And Dianne Feinstein did vote for tax cuts for the rich, like Whoopi, back during the Bush administration. So Whoopi must have been thrilled with that because she just told you she hates taxes on the rich, like the estate tax. So to Anna's point about the self-aggrandizing, which honestly I hadn't focused on, but I am amused by it now. Like the other day I went on the Rational National, David Dole's show, okay? Do you imagine if I went on David's show and you stand on my shoulder?
It's so ridiculous. I mean,
who does that? Who says that?
And right? Yeah, it's just it's a ridiculous thing to say. And look, the point is there were things done to the economy. Now, obviously, Whoopi Goldberg isn't responsible for it, although she does want to repeal certain taxes that have rigged the economy against the average American, right? But to point these things out and say, hey, let's look at history, let's look at some of these mistakes, and let's correct them moving forward. Whoopi Goldberg looks at that and she thinks, oh, no, this is very offensive, you're standing on my shoulders. Look, the truth is, she didn't like AOC to begin with.
Now, she doesn't, you remember her segment on Justice Democrats?
Yes.
Where she was like, who do they think they are?
Exactly.
Fighting for justice. And she thought that was presumptuous, said the lady who claims we all stand on our shoulders. All right, I actually have strong thoughts, as Anna alluded to, on this too. But let's let AOC answer first,
yeah, let's do it.
And then I'll jump in.
I think there's a lot of incentive to blow up disagreements in the party as like huge fights, because I think it's important for us all to recognize, and we do this in our rallies, to recognize the people who have been in this fight to allow us to have this window as we do right now. Nancy Pelosi, that's Mama Bear of the Democratic Party, And but also women like Barbara Lee, Jan Schakowsky, Maxine Waters, my chairman Elijah Cummings. So I think it's important to say that, but also to say that part of, I think, youth and culture, it's always been seen and cast as rebellious, but ultimately we are not a moment that is disconnected from our past.
Okay, so partly agree. So look, I think Anna was harsher than I would be on Nancy Pelosi, believe it or not. I think that it was important that she's the first female Speaker of the House, and she did a lot to get there. Okay, now having said that, I would be much harsher than AOC was there. I'm keeping it real. I agree with her on her policies completely, but there's nothing wrong with disagreeing on style, and there's also nothing wrong with disagreeing on substance. So no, I do not believe Nancy Pelosi is Mama Bear to progressive Democrats. And I don't know why, like I know why, because it's so hard. They've got her in a crucible there, and you say she's awesome, say the establishment is great. Otherwise, it's all your fault. It's all your fault because you're the one who started the fight. No, Whoopi, you just started the fight right in front of us. You attacked AOC, demanding some sort of apology to Pelosi and Feinstein. So look, I'm going to say something really, really simple at the risk of offending the very, very, very sensitive Whoopi Goldberg.
Too late.
Okay, I don't have to agree with Nancy Pelosi. Oh my God, I said it. I also don't have to agree with Dianne Feinstein. Scandal. Okay, so look, AOC, myself, we agree with Bernie Sanders. We all agree with Medicare for All and Green New Deal. Just the two prominent ones, there's many others. So Nancy Pelosi says, it's the green dream or whatever, and dismisses it out of hand and they're not gonna vote on it because of Nancy Pelosi. So what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to just say, oh, I stand on Nancy Pelosi's shoulders, so I guess I'll just jump off of it into a cliff because she doesn't want to do Green New Deal. The planet is burning, but the beloved Nancy Pelosi is liked by Whoopi Goldberg, so I am not allowed to criticize her on policy? Dianne Feinstein has voted for one conservative thing after another. She votes for tax cuts, she voted for the war, her husband profited off it. I'm so sorry for telling you things that are true. You can look it up. Okay, but she's in the club. I forgot she was in the privileged club. That's so sorry. I'm such a ruffian for saying it. So am I supposed to agree with them on Medicare for all? Nancy Pelosi said, I don't care for it. And she won't allow a vote on it. So Whoopi, you tell me, how am I supposed to handle that? Am I just supposed to know, that's it, you're not allowed to fight back against the establishment? If Whoopi Goldberg or Nancy Pelosi says something, we must bow our heads and know that we are immediately defeated without fighting for our voters, without fighting for our audience, without fighting for millions of Americans. 45,000 people a year die because they don't have health insurance. Yeah. But I know they're not in the club, Whoopi. To be fair, they're not at all in the club. See, that's what drives them crazy. You just said a fact, and you seem like you were saying it's because we don't have universal health care. No, it's not seem. That is what I'm saying. It's because we don't have universal health care that those people died. That's a fact. Who doesn't want universal health care? Yeah, it's absolutely true. Trump doesn't want it, Republicans don't want it. But Nancy Pelosi does not want it and will not allow a vote on it. I said it because it's true. If it hurts your feelings, the reason is you don't like facts and you don't like the fact that you're the one blocking progress. Whatever you might have done in the past, today you are against getting people insurance, saving the planet, and you celebrate it. And if we dare oppose you on policy, you demand some sort of apology and that we bow our heads to opinions we don't agree with, very simply, no deal. So I know AOC is being polite, and maybe she's a nicer person than I am, but I don't accept their framing. I don't accept a word that she said. I think the correct answer is to fight back even more aggressively.
All right, we are gonna take a break. When we come back, we'll get to some of these ridiculous accusations regarding Bernie Sanders' health. We'll be back.
Thanks for listening to the full episode of the Young Turks. Support our work, listen ad-free, access members-only bonus content, and more by subscribing to Apple Podcasts at apple.co/TYT. I'm your host, Cenk Uygur, and I'll see you soon.